Live. Welcome to What's New in Swarmia, everyone. It's our live product event where we talk about latest product updates and give you a sneak peek into what's coming next. And I'm your host, Roman. I'm the head of product and design at Swarmia. And with me today, I have an all-stars team from our side, including our CEO and founder, Otto, Miikka, our product manager for all things AI, and Henrik, a product manager from the team working on our business outcomes part of the product. We have a lot to cover today, so here's an overview. We'll start with an opening word from Otto, where he'll share what's his view on the state of engineering effectiveness in the late 2025, setting the stage for the two main topics we are going to cover in the rest of the event. The first one, driving business outcomes with Swarmia, where we talk about balancing engineering effort, understanding work on strategic initiatives, cost capitalization, things like that. And then the second topic is GenAI, understanding the direct and second order effects of AI, something that's been top of mind for many engineering leaders we talk to. Then we'll share some other product highlights, including new integrations that are upcoming, improvements to how you configure Swarmia, access and control, and historical team data, among other things. Finally, there will be a Q&A, so stick around for that. And before we get started, I just want to share a few practicalities. So first of all, the chat is open throughout the whole event. You will find it in the bottom right corner. You're welcome to leave your impressions as we speak. You can also react to the presentation through a button in the bottom of the screen to share what resonates the most. And you can also use the questions section in that same bottom right corner to ask questions and upvote questions of others, and we'll make sure to get to them in the Q&A. Our amazing Pinia and Santeri are helping us with the chat, making sure no questions gets missed. So thank you so much for that as well. Finally, this session is recorded, so you'll get the recording in your inbox once we're done. And you're welcome to share it with whoever else needs to see this. I think that mostly covers it. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Otto on stage.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Exciting to see so many of you here today. I'm the founder and CEO, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about what else other than AI. So you couldn't really have this kind of sessions these days. I've been to a lot of CTO events and lunches and afterworks and whatever, and this is all we talk about. So many things are changing because of it that we're all questioning how do our previous learnings apply in this day and age. And that's a very healthy question to ask, because even though many of the fundamentals are the same, still things work a little bit differently. Bottlenecks are in a bit different place. Team structure might be more optimal if you structure it in a different way. And AI has been a big investment area for us at Swarmia, obviously. We've had one team focused on this for a while now, and we are actually dedicating a completely new team to build new features in this realm of understanding the impact of GenAI tools to your software engineering organizations. We're also the proud platinum sponsors of this year's DORA report. I have a bit of a conflicted relationship with DORA because historically people have always reduced all of their work to just the 4 metrics. Like that's what everyone's talking about. Also, I think their initial focus on this used to be called the State of the DevOps report. Like DevOps is obviously important, and CI/CD pipelines and everything, like those are great practices, but that's not all that's required to build an effective engineering organization. The good news is that the DORA folks have definitely realized this as well. And DORA actually these days is not an acronym for anything DevOps related. It is simply a research organization that wants to understand how to get better at getting better. And they built a lot of interesting work around kind of the capabilities of successful companies and kind of analyzing these archetypes of different types of teams and how they are adopting the modern best practices. So we've been really happy to work with them, provide access to some of our customers, etc. And this is actually a great report because it is, I think, the best research being done in the AI space at the moment. So definitely worth checking out. We also have an event coming up where we have Nathan Harvey, who's leading the Dora team, talking with us about this. We'll post the info later. But thinking about how to get the most out of the GenAI coding tools, the way I see the journey, and this is based on, we have a few thousand companies as customers doing this, I would like to split into these consecutive steps. And if you try to rush into the last step, you're probably not going to be successful. So first of all, I would suggest you want to start from experimentation without any KPIs. So you don't want to set overly ambitious goals of how you need to be able to prove this success, but rather focus on, let's give people some tools, let's make sure they match our security guidelines and everything else, but then just share learnings. Who is getting some good successes with this? Where does it not work? And focus on that part. Then when you get from that stage and you have an idea of where this rollout might be successful, you want to figure out how to adopt this across the organization. It has a people element and it has a systems element. So some people might be suspicious about these tools, and rightfully so, because they don't work for every single case. But also on the systems side, you want to make sure that you have built kind of the cursor rules or Claude MD files, all of this context for these agents to get most out of it. So this is something that we're already doing as part of the product, and we're going to be talking about it today. Once you drive adoption, it makes sense to focus on what's happening organization-wide. Are we actually shipping more? Is this working for us? And focusing on the returns. And finally, as you optimize the returns, then you can start focusing on, well, what does it actually cost for us? Because turns out the best models, they achieve great level of success by simply spending more compute power on it, and it will eventually get pretty costly. But if you try to optimize for a $20 Copilot license early before you've actually even tried anything, and you try to prove the value of that, you're probably approaching this the wrong way. Now, we've always had this pretty comprehensive way of looking at engineering effectiveness. And these categories serve the purpose of understanding GenAI coding tools pretty well, because we have the developer experience perspective where you can already run surveys with Swarmia to understand how people are feeling about these tools, how they're feeling about other people using these tools, and are they causing problems at code review stage. We also have ways for you to leave anecdotal evidence about work that you've completed to show that this is where AI really worked and this is where it didn't. We also have a comprehensive set of developer productivity metrics. So if you want to understand how the bottleneck is emerging on the code review side, we have all the tools already in place for that. But maybe most importantly, when we're talking about the impact of these tools, it really should show up in the business outcomes. So of course, it's interesting to explore what's happening with commits and pull requests, but ultimately we want to see that the teams are getting more done as a result of this. And the effects can be in areas that you don't necessarily even expect. Like we've seen great experiences from our product team experimenting with prototypes using this. We've seen examples of eliminating some dependencies with these tools. And all of these things should really accelerate the time to ship some of these things. And we have a pretty good set of tools in this area, and they've gotten a lot better in the last 6 months, as we're going to see in today's presentation. And finally, this is all basically a big, once again, a transformation project where you're managing change, you're introducing something new bottlenecks are emerging, you're reacting to that, you're trying to build a culture with the right level of experimentation and transparency so that people can make good decisions. And this is all still very much relevant. And we wrote this book build elements of an effective software organization about the topic of engineering effectiveness. And we're going to post some links for you to get your copy of this book as well, because it all still very much applies in the AI era as well. So that's my quick intro to the topic. Let's look at the actual product updates and how to get there. So back to Roman.
Thanks, Otto. Coming back to product, I'd like to continue with the topic of business outcomes. Our mission at Swarmia is to help engineering leaders get the right information they need to make informed decisions, understand work patterns at scale, and also align the engineering effort with business goals. And in practice, it means making sure that you're focusing on the right things and you're delivering on the most important strategic initiatives predictably. It also means balancing your efforts across different categories, such as addressing technical debt as you go, improving productivity, not only focusing on the new things, but doing it sustainably, and also allocating enough time for experimentation and innovation. And finally, there's the cost aspect of it, ensuring that engineering is worth the investment, that you're getting the right ROI on how you're investing your engineering time and connecting it to finance. And indeed, getting this high-level visibility is important, but how you do it and what data it's based on and what you can do based on this data matters even more. And there are a few distinct traits that make Swarmia well-positioned for serving these goals. First of them is the fact that historically we've been very close to the work that teams do. As you probably know, oftentimes your team's work is not described by what you have in your issue trackers and by your biggest initiatives, but there's a lot of other things that take your engineers' time. And in Swarmia, we visualize every single commit, every single pull request review, and how that plays out together, forming these bigger investment categories for the entire organization. I like the example of keeping the lights on and firefighting and maintenance, because that usually is a category of work that is not very well reflected in the issue trackers. Oftentimes, when you're fixing a bug, doing something ad hoc, firefighting, you don't really leave a trace in the issue tracker. And yet, all combined, this can account sometimes to 30 or 40% of all time your engineers spend at work. So being able to understand that and see patterns in across all the different kinds of work is really important. The second bit is the actionability. Getting a high-level overview for engineering leaders is valuable, but how you take action often involves also getting the teams on board. So at Swarmia, we built a product in a way that creates a shared language across the entire engineering organization. So when you're looking at an initiative, you can get a high-level overview, and then you should be able to see what is my team's contribution to the initiative? What can I do to make sure we deliver on time? And the last important bit is configurability, making sure that how the product is configured is reflecting how your organization works. And that is not really something that you can do as a one-off setup in the beginning, because your organization changes all the time. Your organization evolves all the time. And so making sure you can make small changes continuously to ensure that the product accurately reflects how you work is essential. And we've built a product with transparent configuration from day one. And most of the time, the data you see in Swarmia is real time. So you also get these feedback loops as you're making changes. And now I'd like to invite Henrik on stage to talk about how this works in practice and share some of the latest product updates when it comes to business outcomes.
Thank you, Roman. So I'm Henrik. I'm a product designer here at Swarmia, and I work on everything related to business outcomes. And I'll start with something that's a little bit of a cliche, but there's a good reason for it. And what we see across the industry is that there is a language gap between business and engineering. Business likes to talk in terms of headcount and dollars. Engineering likes to talk in story points or pull requests. And often time is a common unit for both. But we don't think it really tells the full story. Your organization might be talking about project A taking double the time of project B or things like that, but I think that leaves a lot untold. And that's really where the effort comes in. And we measure this in FTE months. So you might see that beneath it all, project B that was very short was actually a really short, but very much happened underneath the surface. And effort is something we introduced at Swarmia over a year ago, but it's basically that we account for all these data points for each developer, all these PRs, commits, comments, and we put those together and we distribute them between the issues that they worked on, but also the bucket that is not categorized to a particular issue. And then we divide the FTE month between those things. And we do this for each developer separately. So it also accommodates for different styles of working. So some people commit a lot more frequently, while others wait for a bigger commit. But our effort model allows to account for that. But this gives us an idea of where did developers put their effort into. And the cool thing about effort is that you can, unlike time, you can't really divide it in the same way, but effort you can divide and you can slice and dice the data. So you can look at distributions. You might be interested in what was the biggest contributing team, what was the most difficult issue to solve in a particular project. And you might also look at sort of types of work. So was it KTLO? Was it new things? And this is what effort allows you to do. And another thing that we've been looking at a lot during the past quarter is how we can surface patterns in effort. And you can really build out these timelines where you can see things come alive. And for example, I might spot that project A was where, first of all, it was very low effort across the whole time, but there were several inactive periods during it. Or I might pick a time period like 3 months and see that, okay, project B was 75% of all engineering effort during that time period. So that's really powerful thing that effort allows us to do. And I think with this effort model and how we show it in Swarmia, we can help engineering leaders really kind of bridge that gap between business and engineering talk and answer those frequently asked questions like, where is the team focusing right now? Are we putting our efforts into the big bets that we decided together? And the fact that we can drill from the very top level down to a team and individual level and see even like how much an individual pull request contributed to effort is really powerful. Then jumping into the actual features. So where are we showing this effort? So initiatives, you might have seen, has had a lot of changes. And what we've introduced is these trend charts that really tell the story about how those projects evolve over time. And we try to get a lot of information into a single view, so you can not just drill into a single project, but you can see them across all these projects. And the powerful thing is that you can also filter down to a team and see how an individual team has contributed towards initiatives. So all these trend charts update based on the filters as well. And then finally, we've introduced ways to import initiatives automatically. So keeping that list up to date with your issue tracker is much simpler today. But the charts are really what I'm most excited about this. And I think it's because you can reveal so much of what happens underneath in such a small amount of pixels. I'm a designer after all, so I'm very excited about the pixels. But for example, let's take the completed chart. originally we had a sort of static progress bar, but if you come to the initiatives page, you might not see the completion rate change at all, but there has actually been a lot of work underneath, and that's what the chart allows us to see, and you can see this across multiple projects. And it might be that people are adding more scope and closing it at the same time, which often happens in agile workflows. And the second part of this is showing the trend of effort, really to surface that. Is an initiative in active focus, or is it on pause, or is it like going on half effort? And that might be an action point for you as an engineering leader, that, hey, I think we need more focus here. But these are very exciting things that you can already see in the initiatives view. The second part where effort is really valuable is software capitalization. So because it is such a systematic and data-driven way to estimate developer effort, it's valuable for financial reporting. So this summer we launched software capitalization, and it allows you to set rules for how to capitalize your work, and then work with your finance team to review that capitalization either by issue or by contributor, just to make sure everything is in order, and then finally export the data monthly or annually, however you need it. And this has been a really great introduction to this topic. Then moving on, focus summary. So we've introduced these trend charts to the focus summary as well. Focus summary is in a lot of ways the best place to answer what are the top 5 items that we've worked on during a time period. But we are bringing more exploratory capabilities to that view. And exploratory workflows is something that we are looking at a lot here at Swarmia. And this is kind of the first step on that. So being able to, for example, start with what are the biggest issues, maybe filtering down to the largest issue, then grouping by, let's say, a team, seeing which were the contributing teams to that large issue, and then maybe even grouping by author to see who was the individual who contributed most to this issue. So these are very powerful tools that you'll be soon able to use, and please reach out if you want to participate in the early access. Finally, investment balance is going to be a big focus in the rest of the quarter and rest of the year. So it's really the best way to analyze patterns at scale, like getting a really high view of where are you putting that effort. And one of the first capabilities that we are bringing to the investment balance is estimating costs. So the cool thing about effort is that you can also translate it to dollars or euros to drive better decision making. And this is something that is also coming to early access. So if please reach out to let us know if you want to participate. And we know that with investment balance, getting kind of from that 0 to 1 can be quite difficult. There's a lot of good features in place, but there's also room for improvement for us on that end. So we already have the rule-based categorization. We have working agreements that encourage your team to link work to issues. We have the Slack notifications that do the same and let categorize loose PRs into your investment balance categories. But then moving on, there's next week you'll be actually able to change your primary breakdown. So that's something that has been requested a lot. So that'll be available next week. And then we are looking at how do we make the categorization more intelligent. So you can say, for example, that everything that falls into the everything else or uncategorized bucket, please categorize that for me. And then finally, in the large organizations, how teams work might be very, very different. So we are looking at team-specific rules and how would you configure those at scale. And that is everything I wanted to present today. So I'm gonna throw it back to Roman.
Thank you, Henrik. Now let's move on to AI. According to the Dora report we shared earlier, 90% of engineers use AI at work. I'm sure you noticed it yourself, that it became the standard pretty quickly. But there's a lot we are still learning. This space is changing so fast. And when it comes to Swarmia, we want to help you understand what works when it comes to AI, how the power users are using AI, what doesn't work, and where AI can help you have most impact. And when it comes to the product, we don't treat AI as a set of features just focused on AI adoption and usage, but more as a lens that encompasses work insights, metrics, and also more second order effects that AI can have on your code quality and the code base overall, and how people read code, how they review code. There's a lot to it. And now I'd like to invite Miikka on stage to talk about what the product does now and where we are going next.
Hello. Thanks, Roman. I'm Miikka, product manager at Swarmia. And I'm going to start with the live demo of our product. And after that, I'm going to present some of the plans for our upcoming features. So in the past few months, I've been talking with a lot of engineering leaders, and using the 4-step journey Otto presented, I would say that many organizations are in the first 2 steps of their AI tool journey. So they are in the exploration and adoption phases. And I would say that we have a fairly solid product to support you in those steps of the journey with some data to help you. So just a moment, I'm going to share my screen. And just confirming, yes, you can see it. So this is the metrics and AI assistance view that gives you an overview of what's going on. And many of the engineering leaders that I've talked with, they have shared that they are using lots of different tools, and the industry is changing quite rapidly, and people are switching from one tool to another, and many organizations have several tools in use at the same time. That's also something that Sasha shared there in the questions already. I think Sasha mentioned 4 tools or so. So that's something that we want to help you with. We want to show all the different tools side by side in the product. So right now we have Copilot and Cursor, and we are currently working on a Claude Code integration and hoping to ship that next week. So I think the main questions in the exploration and adoption phase are: what are the tools that are getting usage? Where are they being used in your organization? And then what kind of usage there is. And when you know answers to these questions, then you might be able to identify power users, teams and use cases where you are getting lots of benefit from these tools. And then those people can help teach the rest of the organization becoming better users of these. And then there might be some people who are only starting to use these tools, and then you can also identify those based on the data and kind of help them ramp up faster. So that's quite convenient here with our team breakdown in the organization. Something that happens when you are moving rapidly from one tool to another is that you might have some unused licenses lying around that you are paying for. We can see that, for example, here the blue line is the number of people who have licenses, and there's a gap between that and the active users. So not everyone is using their licenses all the time. So something that you can already do with the product, for example, to have a closer look, I could look at the last 30 days and select cursor. And in my team, well, that's me, I'm using cursor. You can see that Julius and Mikko, they have a cursor license, but they haven't used it in the last 30 days. So maybe we should stop paying for that. We have also 2 additional lenses that help you get an idea of what kind of usage is taking place with these tools. The first one is our surveys. So we have dedicated AI assistant usage questions in the surveys, and you can conveniently access them here. So let's choose, I use AI tools in most of my programming work. So by clicking that, I can immediately take myself to the results of our latest survey. I can see the distribution of ratings for each of these questions. And then these comments have been really helpful for us to get kind of a sense of what's happening in different parts of the organization. Yeah, of course, you can browse that by the team, and we have industry benchmarks. So if I choose the median, I can see, for example, that adoption seemed to be slightly ahead of the median company in the industry. And another tool that you can use to better understand the activity are these tool-specific breakdowns that we have for each tool. So to use cursor as an example again, I get to the cursor dashboard where I can see, for example, the different modes that people use. Here I can see that tab completions are happening much more in terms of number and frequency than chat acceptances, but then the acceptance rate is in a completely different level. So these are mostly green. You're getting 90% acceptance rate in the chat, versus tab completions are more hit and miss. And then there's a further breakdown of the type of activity in the chat. So I would like to highlight that these are not great ways to measure the productivity impact that you're getting. If you have 100% acceptance rate or a 20% acceptance rate, that doesn't mean that you're getting a productivity benefit, but that can help you evaluate different tools and also learn how your colleagues are using these tools. So that's what we have in the product at the moment, and then I'm going to present some of the plans that we have for the stuff that we are going to ship in the next months. This one is related again to the exploration and adoption steps of the journey. So we would like to give a better view of different cohorts and segments of your users. So for example, we could identify power users who have stuff to teach the rest, or we can show you, so power users are people who are using these tools daily or almost daily. And then we can identify that these are the new users who just started using these tools. You probably want to give them additional support so that they can get up to speed with everything. Then this is something that I'm personally quite excited about. So moving on to the third step, the impact step, we are going to start automatically labeling all pull requests with the AI tools that have been involved in creating the pull request. And this is something that will then help us power a whole set of new functionality in the product. So to begin with, often when we get asked of what are the metrics that I should be measuring when understanding the productivity impact of AI, our answer is that they are the same metric that you have been measuring there the same metrics that we have been always recommending: cycle time, work in progress, batch size, and so forth. And they are just more relevant than ever. But now with this new AI activity lens, you can use the existing Swarmia views to understand what kind of an effect a certain tool has. And not only we show it on the tool level, but we can offer you a breakdown of the different modes in tools. So we can identify between assistant that takes place in your editor versus an autonomous background agent or review agents. For example, Cursor's bug bot has been a favorite among my colleagues. And then in addition to introducing this kind of a lens, we are also planning some dedicated new views for you to do these types of comparisons. So for example, you could put all your different tools side by side and look at the single metric. In this screenshot, you can see cycle time, and then you can try to get an idea and explore what kind of an effect these different tools are having. Maybe you're getting higher throughput with Claude Code, but you might be also seeing that the batch size is increasing and pull request reviews are getting slower. So then you can use that in your decision making. So yeah, to summarize, our product has a pretty good coverage for the first two steps in this GenAI journey. We have some exciting stuff coming up for the impact part in the next few months. And then moving on, the cost part, I think that's something that's starting to become more relevant now that many of the tools are moving from the fixed fee license-based pricing to API pricing or usage-based pricing, and suddenly that you start to pay a lot more. And then it's not necessarily as predictable anymore. So then we are planning to build some tools for you to see hotspots where you, for example, certain repositories or certain themes where you are paying a lot, and then make it just easier for you how you are spending all of that money. Another area that we are looking into is quality. According to many different studies, one of the things people are most worried about with these AI tools is the impact on code quality. And that's something that we're planning to invest a lot next year. So we are building tools for you to get a better grasp of your bug backlog or understand your test code coverage and so on. And then, of course, provide you that AI lens into those things. So those are just some examples of the ideas that we have and the things that we are going to look into. It's hard to make very exact promises as things are developing quite quickly, but I can assure you that we have some good stuff coming up. So that's everything I want to say about AI today. We still have a set of great updates coming up, so I'm going to give the floor back to Roman.
Thanks a lot, Miikka. Great reactions in the chat as well. And I'd like to remind everyone that you can still participate and ask your questions. I think we answered a couple of questions along the way with this update, and excited to hear more of your reactions, responses, and feedback. Now, we have a few more product updates and upcoming features to cover. And the first one is maintaining team histories. We work with large organizations with very complex team structures where team changes happen all the time. People change teams, people start in the organization, people leave the organization. And we already have great tools for keeping team information in Swarmia up to date. You can do it manually. You can use a sync with GitHub if you use Teams in GitHub as well. And we also have a Teams API that allows you to essentially sync all the changes to Swarmia automatically. And previously, getting the history to work for all teams, like being able to look back for a certain team and get a snapshot, required quite a lot of manual setup. Right now, we are doing it automatically across the entire app. It's been already a case for pull requests for some months now. Now we do that for the effort model as well. And it is essential to be able to trust the data, being able to look at the current state of each team and then take a snapshot of any other time in the past. But it also unblocks entirely new use cases for looking at work, where you can see, for example, that maybe one of the main maintainers or contributors to a repository is no longer part of a team or even left the organization. Similarly, you can see that maybe somebody who was the main contributor to a bigger strategic initiative, also left the team. So then we can also surface this information to you to help you make more informed decisions. So the team histories, the latest iteration of it, is already available in the app for everyone. And we are bringing this past member badge to more places in the coming weeks. The next thing is improving access and control in Swarmia. We already had the notion of organizational admins, so people who can edit the highest level configuration, and we're adding new layers to it. The team admin, who can only configure the settings for an individual team, and is also the contact point for that team for all onboarding matters. And we are also introducing a new viewer role, which has access to all the same views, but cannot edit them. And all the existing customers will not experience any change in permissions. So you can transition to this model as you prefer. And all the new customers will have the viewer as the default set of permissions for all new team members. And you'll need to assign team admins who take care of configuration. We are also looking into where this could go next, exploring things like completely custom roles, maybe for finance use cases or for surveys for something else. So would love to hear your feedback and your comments about this as well. Finally, let's talk about what's coming next. We proclaimed this year a year of integrations at the last What's New in Swarmia event, where we announced over 20 HR integrations that help make our effort model more accurate and sync the time offs and holidays to Swarmia. And now we're in the late stages of introducing 2 new integrations to the product. One of them is Microsoft Teams, where we will be able to deliver the same notifications that developers love on Slack, but also through Microsoft Teams, starting with the daily digest and then gradually introducing more notification types, personal notifications as well. So that's already available in Q4 2025. The next thing I'm personally very excited about is introducing GitLab. We already have a few test customers who are partnering with us to define the scope of this integration. And you can already sign up for Swarmia if you're a GitLab user on our website. We encourage you to do that if you happen to see this. And this is coming in late 2025. Very active work on this one. Now, to make a few more highlights, we are working on introducing better benchmarks in the product everywhere where you see metrics. Then now you can see here, we already announced 24 major releases in 2025. You can see it in our changelog. And naturally, the navigation sometimes lags behind. So now we are investing in improving the navigation to stay on top of all the latest things that were introduced lately. So that's coming in Q4. Entra SSO, so being able to access Swarmia with Entra, was something that was supposed to be on the coming soon list, but it actually got released yesterday. So that's now available for everyone. So that's great. And finally, we are also looking into improving filters and data exploration views to help you do more custom research in Swarmia. And please follow our changelog for all the latest updates. Now we are ready to move on to the Q&A. So you're still on time to ask questions and participate in the chat. And I think we already have a few more questions. But at this point, I'd like to invite everyone on stage so we can start taking the most upvoted ones.
Yeah, I can manage the list of questions and going through the order of votes. First one is from Sasha. And looking at the timestamp, I think this concerns the business outcomes. So will you have an option to show cost only to select people?
Yeah, so that's definitely something we've all already heard from the ones who have participated in the early access. And I do think that is part of the shipping the full feature is that permission. And with the new roles, that makes it simpler as well for us to implement and be more precise.
The next question is also from Sasha. Will you add other AI agents used in pull requests in GitHub? We, at the moment, experiment with Copilot, Gemini, Claude, and Codex, all at the same time. Yeah, crazy. But we are testing them all to see which one to stick to. So yeah, we are planning to add probably all of these. So we have a couple of different options for these. So the stuff that we have been doing for Copilot and Cursor and Claude Code involves you connecting your data and us getting the data from the API. That's something that we're going to do for the major tools. And that's useful for us when we want to understand the activity taking in place in the editor. But then when it comes to these autonomous agents, then it's actually much easier for us to get the data because these agents are authoring stuff in the version control system. So we can see that the commit and pull request authors and co-authors are these AI bots. And that's good news since, well, first of all, we can support a much wider variety of these tools because it's a more lightweight implementation, but also you don't have to go through all of the effort of connecting all of the different APIs in the product. Wow, a third question from Sasha. These are highly regarded by other webinar participants. So would you add statistics on technologies used per teams, ICs, org overall, i.e. increase of contributions in one language versus other? And looking at the timestamp, I suppose this is related to the AI metrics. Yeah, I think that's something that we can explore. Some of that is already available, for example, in the Copilot activity dashboards. We are listing different languages, and I believe at least in many of the APIs, we have also different editors available. So yeah, and as mentioned, since we get data from the version control systems, I think we could have some kind of a breakdown for that. So yeah, I think that's a good idea, and that's something that we can explore further. I don't know, does someone from the Swarmia team have additional things to mention regards this?
Nope, I think that's good. And we can take the next question. I think the next most uploaded one is from Perttu asking, has your research incorporated impact of AI-assisted development on the, well, I guess on the product as a whole, or any metrics? Or is it too early to draw conclusions? We already see interesting stuff cooking. Thanks, kudos to the team. Otto, do you want to address this one?
Sure. Yeah, I think what we're seeing from all of these research is that when you look at things in aggregate, it's really difficult to see what's going on. Some people are really successful, and some people maybe didn't spend much time setting this up or educating people or even just sticking with it and trying it. And so at the highest level, it's super difficult to come up with conclusions about this is kind of the actual impact. The other problem is, of course, that there is no official kind of definition for throughput and kind of the value delivered, which is why we wanted to highlight this business outcomes part of the product, because in your own organization, you are the best judge of did we actually deliver something valuable, and you can do that there pretty easily. But then when you try to analyze that from the outside, it's pretty difficult. So I think the story is that there's a bunch of great pockets of success with adopting these tools, and then like your experience varies a lot. So yeah, I can't really give you a very good simple answer, but that's also why I think everyone needs to have this mindset of I just want to understand this better, and I want to zoom in and look at how the teams are doing and where the successes are.
Thanks, Otto. The next one is my personal favorite. Will you add annotations to chart? Annotations is a more of an experimental project at Swarmia that was born out of a hackathon, but there's a lot more we are exploring in this regard, where you could add more context to everything that you see in Swarmia. For example, in initiatives, it would be very valuable to see and to ask engineers what happened if there is some longer period of inactivity. Maybe it is a team dependency that's blocking them. Maybe it's a change of priorities, or maybe it's something else. And adding annotations to other charts, metrics charts, is also something we are exploring in this. Would be happy to hear more.
And many people might not know this, but when you open a pull request, for example, in the cycle time dashboard, you can actually add comments. You can also tag @Swarmia in the pull request and add a comment that, hey, I spent some time working on this, but it didn't really go well. I had to start from scratch twice. So you can record this kind of comments, and then when people are analyzing the pull request dashboard, for example, you will see kind of a visual cue that there is a note about this. So then when someone else tries to look at it, you can see that, okay, the team actually already had a conversation about this and they already learned about it. So that's great news. And obviously with GenAI, we are going to be able to label this feedback, put it to a couple of different buckets, maybe give you some insight about technical depth and things like that. So this is a super early, like an experimental feature in Swarmia, but I think it's actually pretty helpful for understanding the kind of anecdotal evidence, which turns out to be pretty valuable, because it's not just the numbers, it's really like, what should we do as an organization?
All right, I can pick the next question. Now it's getting harder to choose because they have equal number of upvotes. But there is another question on initiatives. Let's take this one. Can you implement connection of Swarmia initiatives with custom ticket type in Jira? We have a structure of themes, initiatives, epics, and stories, and we wouldn't like to create initiatives in Swarmia, but being able to get this data from Jira to Swarmia would be beneficial. Henrik, would you like to take this one?
Yeah, so it was last week that we launched the auto import for Jira. So you can now define a filter, let's say Jira type equals initiative, and bring those automatically to Swarmia as initiatives. So that is possible. And you could even say that let's bring themes and like themes as like longer term initiatives, and then initiatives as kind of the shorter projects or the shorter initiatives. So you could import both automatically, and those would always stay up to date. And the final part about that is I think with this setup, you probably have they are not kind of direct children of those initiatives, but they are linked through what I think linked work items. So that is something we are introducing in the next few weeks, is that we can capture those. So that's especially if you are using Jira product discovery or I think it's called Jira plans. We can support those. So then you will be able to see the linked items in the initiative. So coming soon.
I can take the next one. That is from Jay. Is it on the roadmap to be able to customize those views and correlate with other metrics? And I believe this refers to the AI views. So yes, I would say in many ways those will be customizable. So we already have a set of filters available in terms of correlations with other metrics. We can make these the pull request level AI usage data available in most of the Swarmia views, and we'll probably start from the pull request metrics. And since we know the issues that these pull requests are linked to, we can also show this data on issue metrics and initiatives and so on. And then maybe as a cherry on the top, we have been making some nice improvements to our data model those are largely invisible to all of our users right now, but we are soon reaching a point where it's very easy for us to provide these more customizable views that you are able to build from scratch. But that's a story for another time, so stay tuned on that.
Awesome. There is one more question that I think would be relevant for Miikka. Do you also consider adding code coverage? Also show how many pull requests, how many times pull requests fail because of test pipelines, which teams have the most failures of tests, and which teams add more tests and coverage.
Yeah, test coverage is something that I mentioned in terms of quality metrics. There's certainly lots of metrics that and quality information that we could incorporate in Swarmia. Yeah, I think this is a good list of things that we are certainly going to take a look into, and there's also a blog post coming up from Otto.
Amazing. So there's one more question. Are we planning to add code rabbit support for pull requests?
Yeah, I think that's very much doable. As I mentioned, we can get the AI agent authorship information from GitHub and GitLab from the version control system. So then we can also surface the code rabbit information. And yes, I remember looking at our customer data, and I have seen some code rabbit users there.
Awesome. And I see Otto is answering the next question as well. Will you add export of data to Google Cloud?
I tried to implement this with Claude Code, but it failed. So I'm going to have to ask the team to do it. But we realized that this is a missing feature.
Yep, indeed. So we'll definitely make a note of that. And we have quite a few customers about asking this as well. All right, I think we covered most questions we had this time. And finally, I'd like to mention that we have another event coming soon, 2 weeks from now, close to that, where we dive deeper into AI-assisted software development. We have Nathan Harvey from Dora at Google, Emily Nakashima from Honeycomb, and our own Rebecca Murphy from Swarmia. So excited to see you there. We also posted the link now in the chat, so you should see it. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining, and have a great rest of your day.